It's one of the most frequently asked questions I get on the channel or the podcast or comments or just emails. People are always wanting to know, if you had to pick an aircraft to fly, what would it be? What do you wish you had flown? And I thought that's a kind of a cool topic. I do answer it a lot, but I thought we might break it down into the top 5 aircraft I wish I had flown, both in my career and just in general. And we'll start with the top 5 jets that I wish I had flown. I know not all these aircraft are jets, but in the military world, we talk jets, props, helicopters. That's kind of generic term. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the top 5 American jets that I wish I had flown.
3, 2, 1, flight off.
Number 5, don't tell Gonky, but it's the F-35. Also known as Fat Amy or the Battle Penguin. She's not the best looking aircraft, but when it comes to capabilities, she's not bad either. The F-35 has an impressive suite of sensors and capabilities and situational awareness tools that give it an edge anywhere it is. With upgrades coming out regularly, it keeps getting better. The radar is amazing. The sensors are awesome. The helmet is cool, although don't leave it on the canopy rail and shut the canopy, or else that's a Class A mishap, I think, or Class C. I think it's a Class C. It's a Class C mishap, which is a pretty big deal just for dinging up your helmet. But it's a cool helmet, lightweight. It's not too bad. The cons, well, I mean, she's Fat Amy. She's not the best looking airplane. And BFM, from what I understand, I've talked to people who've flown it, and I've fought against it as an adversary. It's kind of a mix of an F-18 and an F-16. And I know I talked about, I wish I had one that did that, but it's not a mix of the best of both. It can't sustain 9Gs, or at least the A model. The C model doesn't even try, or the B. Can't sustain 9Gs. It's like an instantaneous, and then that's it. The AOA is cool, but it's not going to power its way out of stuff. Pedal turns are awesome. Anybody that I've talked to that's actually fought them, you usually do pretty well, especially in a Block 30 big mouth. So, yeah, but in today's world, is that a big deal? You know, we always talked about BFM. Who's the world's greatest BFMer? It's like a bowling sport. Nobody cares. But it's still, you know, bragging rights, right? But what it can do, air to ground, air to air, suppression of enemy air defenses, it's all eye-watering. Great sensor fusion, great situational awareness when it works. It's like everything else. It's cool when it works. It's been plagued by a lot of problems. As a taxpayer, I'm kind of disappointed, but as a fighter pilot, I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty cool jet. Wouldn't mind flying it. It's number 5 on the list. I almost got to fly it back in 2018 when Hurricane Michael rolled through and took out Tyndall, which I was a T-38 pilot assigned to that. A general came in and said, we're going to take care of you guys. You're all going to fly either the F-35 or the aircraft of your choosing. Were it not for certain people, Gregory, Curtis, possibly would have been flying it right now. That was the goal. That was the plan. I'd applied to many F-35 positions, but unfortunately it didn't work out. So I was very close to flying it, but the promises weren't kept, and we didn't end up getting F-35s for anybody that wanted them. So such is your career, such is life. But I came close to being a Fat Amy pilot, but alas, it wasn't meant to be. Number 4, the F-15EX. The EX is awesome. Now, it's kind of blasphemy as an F-16 pilot for me to actually be praising an Eagle jet, but is it an Eagle jet? It's kind of like the Mud Hen, and then they got rid of the Wizzo, which is awesome, but they kept the seat, so you still can have a passenger that can watch you do cool stuff and film the merge, but it doesn't have the same flight control system. It has high AOA capabilities, a lot of thrust. The sensor suite is awesome, both the ability to see things with its radar and the ability to protect itself against threats. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I hope they buy a ton of these. Downsides, well, it's an Eagle. It's got 2 seats, and it's made by Boeing. So I'm not suicidal, but good luck. That's all I'm saying. But it's a good jet. I've seen the demos. They're awesome. I've talked to a friend of mine that was from officer training school that's now flying them. I'd love to get him on the channel, but he sings its praises, thinks it's an awesome jet, and I believe it. I think it is an awesome aircraft, and if timing had worked out better, I would have loved to have flown it. Number 3, the A-10. It's a gun with wings. 30 millimeter gun. It's not really a fighter per se, but they're still fighter pilots. They go out and do mostly air to surface, close air support, combat search and rescue, and other. They used to be, I mean, they're originally designed to face off against the Russians at the Fulda Gap, tank killer. But over time, their mission evolved to doing mostly close air support, and they were very good at it. I mean, arguably one of the best, if not the best, close air support platforms. Their pilots are experts in that trade, and they're all very good at it. And CSAR is a mission we don't talk about a lot, but it's very important. If you get shot down, you want to know that somebody's got your back, and what better way than having an A-10 come out there and escort the helicopters to come get you and to find you. So really cool knowing that that capability existed. But I chased the A-10 my entire career. My first squadron as a student hire was an A-10 squadron. They hired me to go to pilot training. And again, another hurricane took out New Orleans this time back in 2005, and they'd already been tagged by the base realignment and closure. So instead of me going to the A-10 and then Barksdale eventually, I ended up having to find another job and ended up flying F-16s. I tried to go back in 2012, 2011 timeframe until my wing commander came up to me and said, hey, you might want to rethink that, because I just gotten hired at Barksdale to go fly A-10s, and lo and behold, they shut down too. So I'm bad luck with the A-10. And later on, I would apply one more time to Moody. That didn't work out. Kind of a rough interview, but it didn't work. So it was an airplane that I chased a lot, just never could quite make it work. But it would have been a cool airplane to fly. I love close air support. I think the gun is awesome. I think it would have been cool to fly and support the troops on the ground, because to me, there's no mission that is more rewarding and fulfilling than being able to support that 18-year-old with a rifle in the foxhole. It'll be sad to see the A-10 go away. Number 2, the F-22. What else can you say, but it's an awesome aircraft. Thrust vectoring, goes high, goes fast, does good work, has an amazing sensor suite, just like the F-35, can see things, target things, shoot things, but it's pretty much just air to air. They've tried to do some air to ground just to stay relevant with small diameter bombs and doing that. But they're really an air to air air superiority platform, and they're very, very, very good at it. It's eye watering to watch an F-22 either dogfighting, because I fought them when I was in a T-38, and to see the things they can do, or just in general, a lot of cool capabilities, really cool at an air show, just awesome, single seat, as it should be. Downsides, community's a little rough. Some of the people, they take it a little too seriously because they have the one mission. Usually, sometimes when you get focused on that one thing, you kind of lose focus of the bigger picture, but still would have loved to have flown it. And I almost did fly it. When I was in pilot training, I was like, hey, this is an opportunity that's coming out. The F-22 was roughly brand new, and the Air Force Reserves were still trying to get their foot in the door. And when I finished the F-16 school, the opportunity came out, and the commander at the time came up to me at graduation and said, hey, do you want to fly the F-22? The problem at the time was there was no basic course. So if you're brand new and don't have enough experience, you go to a basic course, and there were no F-22 basic courses at the time. So he said, hey, look, when you get your hours, I forgot how it was, 200, 300 hours, we'll take you from the F-16. So you'll be experienced, and you'll go to a TX course, transition course, and you'll be the youngest F-22 pilot in the reserves. I was like, that's awesome. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. When Tyndall was hiring for F-22 basic course instructors, I applied, and the interview actually went really well. And I would find out many years later that I actually got the job, until the wing commander at the time, they called him and they said, hey, we're hiring mover. What do you think? And he's like, ooh, you might want to reconsider that. Unfortunately, that was because of the girl I had just been dating, an F-16 pilot herself. And they didn't like that. So I lost that opportunity, and it never would present itself again. So I never got to fly the F-22. It's one of those jets I wish I had flown, because it looks really cool. Maybe not forever, but at least once. It just would have been cool just to do once, do the Hayaka, go fast, all that stuff. And number 1 on my list, Tomcats, the F-14. Now, the F-14 was out of service by the time I started as a fighter pilot. And by the time I got to the Navy, for sure, it had been gone. It was never an option for me, but it's one of those airplanes that I fell in love with watching Top Gun like everybody else. And I went to an air show before they decommissioned it and just watched it and how loud it was and how powerful and how cool it was. And I met Organ when I was in college, Tomcat pilot. Man, he was so cool. And just everything around it just seemed really, really cool. And so it's an awesome airplane. The wing sweep is cool. Get high, get fast, do good work, just like the F-22. Not a 9G fighter, legally speaking, but some guys have done 9Gs. It's not, it's more about, you know, it's an interceptor, and that's a cool mission. And every Tomcat guy I've talked to has had some really awesome stories. Shoes has had some awesome stories. It just seems like a fun jet to fly. And I know I might have an aversion to backseaters, but I would make an exception for the Tomcat because it's just cool. So that's my number one. I wish I had flown is the F-14. God, it would have been cool. So my only option is to go to Iran and steal one, as Thomas Cruise did. Anyway, that's my list. Next time we'll talk about the foreign aircraft, the non-US aircraft, the top 5. We'll talk about propeller-driven aircraft on another episode, and then we'll talk about helicopters. So if you like this series, let me know in the comments. And let me know in the comments what your top 5 is. I was very fortunate to be able to fly the F-16 and the F-18, and I love them both. Obviously, the F-16 is always going to be my first love, but some of those other jets would have been awesome too. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time.